In 1950, the average American house cost roughly $7,000. At the time, the average salary was about $3,300. 2 years of labor. That was the price of a kingdom. It wasn't a mansion. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath starter home, a humble box of wood and plaster that functioned as the entry-level ticket to the middle class. It was the place where you built equity, started a family, and began the slow climb toward the American dream. Today, that same house is a relic of a lost civilization. For the modern professional, the starter home isn't just expensive, it is extinct. We are living through a fundamental restructuring of how humans inhabit the earth, a shift from a property-owning democracy to a rentership society. And it wasn't an accident. Tonight, we look at the hidden systems that killed the starter home and why, for the first time in a century, the ladder of wealth has been pulled up just as a new generation started to climb. In any healthy economic ecosystem, there is a progression. You start small, you buy what you can afford, you build a bit of wealth, and then you move up. This churn is what keeps the market fluid. But look at the data today and you'll see a bottleneck. In the United States, the inventory of entry-level homes, those under 1,400 square feet, has plummeted by over 80% since the late 1970s. We simply stopped building them. Why? Because the math of the small home no longer works for the people who build them. Land costs have skyrocketed, regulatory fees have doubled. If a developer has to pay $100,000 just for the permit and the dirt, they aren't going to build a $200,000 cottage. They're going to build a $700,000 luxury villa. The profit margin demands it. But there's a deeper, more psychological force at play. It's called NIMBYism, not in my backyard. Existing homeowners have a vested interest in keeping supply low. To them, a new, affordable development isn't a service to the community, it's a threat to their net worth. We have turned our shelter into our primary investment vehicle, and once a house becomes an investment, its primary goal is no longer to house people. Its goal is to become more expensive. For decades, the starter home was a boring asset. Wall Street didn't care about a 3-bedroom bungalow in the suburbs of Atlanta or Sheffield. It was too small, too messy to manage. Then, 2008 happened. The great financial crisis left millions of homes in foreclosure. It was a tragedy for families, but for institutional capital, it was the greatest clearance sale in human history. This is the moment the game changed. Enter the institutional landlord. Firms like Blackstone and Invitation Homes realized that if they bought up thousands of single-family homes at once, they could create a perpetual rent machine. They didn't need to flip the house, they just needed the cash flow. When you go to an open house today, you aren't just competing with another young couple, you are competing against an algorithm. You are competing against a billion-dollar fund that can pay in cash and close in 48 hours. To the algorithm, the starter home is a yield-bearing asset. To the couple, it's their future. The algorithm always wins because it doesn't need to sleep in the house, it only needs to collect the coupon. There is a psychological weight to not owning the roof over your head. In behavioral economics, we talk about the endowment effect, the idea that we value things more when they belong to us. But ownership provides something deeper. Ontological security. It is the sense of order and continuity in your life. When you rent, you're a guest in your own life. You cannot paint the walls without permission. You cannot plant a tree. You cannot be certain that your rent won't jump 20% next year, forcing you to move, to change your child's school, to leave your community. This permanent transience creates a subtle underlying layer of chronic stress. Educated professionals in their 30s are now trapped in a state of extended adolescence. They have the degrees, they have the high-status jobs, they have the 6-figure salaries, but they don't have the foundational asset. Without the starter home, people delay marriage. They delay having children. They delay investing in their local communities. The death of the starter home isn't just a real estate headline, it's a demographic time bomb. If the starter home is dead, what takes its place? Welcome to the era of build to rent. Entire neighborhoods are now being constructed with the express purpose of never being sold to individuals. They are owned by corporations from day one. In this system, wealth does not accumulate for the resident. It flows upward, out of the neighborhood and into the portfolios of shareholders. We are moving toward a new feudalism. In the old world, the lord owned the land and the serf worked it. In the new world, the corporation owns the zip code and the professional pays for the privilege of existing within it. We were told that technology and efficiency would make life easier, but somehow we are working harder than our parents did, only to own less than they ever imagined. The system has learned to capture the entry level of adulthood. It has turned the first step of the ladder into a toll booth. When we say we can't afford a home, what we're really saying is that our time has been devalued. If it takes 2 years of labor to buy a home in 1950 and 20 years of labor to buy that same home in 2026, then the value of a human hour has collapsed. The starter home didn't just disappear because of supply and demand. It disappeared because we decided as a society that housing should be an investment first and a human right second. We chose the asset economy. And in an asset economy, those who already own assets get richer, while those who trade their time for money, the young, the professional, the stressed, find themselves running faster just to stay in the same place. So, what happens next? History tells us that when a generation is locked out of the system, they eventually stop believing in the system. The death of the starter home is a crack in the social contract. It is a sign that the entry level of the dream has been closed for renovations, but no one knows when it will reopen. For now, millions of people will continue to pay. They will pay the rent. They will pay the invisible tax of inflation. They will pay the price of a system that rewards capital over character. And as they look at those small 1,200 square foot boxes from the 1950s, they won't see an old house. They will see a miracle. Because once you see the system this way, it becomes impossible to unsee it. If this perspective resonates with you, please like the video and subscribe to PBC Capital Mind. Your support helps us produce more deep dive documentaries on the forces defining our generation.